Oh, that's right. Microphones on.
Test 1, 2. 1, 2, testing. 1, 2, test.
Okay.
We good? All right. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to our Board of Commissioners meeting for today. Today is June the 18th. I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order for the Commission. It is now 11:05 a.m. We're grateful for everyone being here with us today in our chambers. We're also grateful for those that are out there online. Thank you for joining us. We'll go ahead and move on to our roll call. So, Commissioner Adams?
Here.
Commissioner Stubbs?
Here.
Commissioner Harvey, I'm here. There are three of us, so that's a full quorum for today's meeting. And we will now move on to our invocation. Commissioner Stubbs, I'd like to ask for your invocation, if it's okay.
Okay. Our Heavenly Father, we come before Thee at the beginning of this Commission meeting. We pray for the Spirit to abide here with us, that we may make decisions to benefit the people of San Juan County. We pray for inspiration, for wisdom. We also pray for those that are here. We are grateful for the time that they take to come to this meeting. We pray for the members of San Juan County. We pray for protection, for peace, for prosperity, for each of our citizens, from the littlest one to the oldest one. Special prayer goes to our workers, for they're the ones that move the wheels of this Commission and of this county. We pray that Thou will bless them with good health, that You will stretch the funds that they receive from us, that they be able to be sustained, and we pray for thy protection and health blessings. And we are special prayer for our administrators and for the people that do the hard part of this service for this county. And we say these things with a grateful heart for the opportunity we have to live at this time and at this place. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Commissioner Stubbs. Muchas gracias. We'll now move to our Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone stand with us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to move on to our conflict of interest. Commissioners, if you've looked over our agenda today, do any of you have any conflict of interest? Commissioner Adams?
I have none.
Commissioner Stubbs? Any
I want to
conflict
say I
of
don't
interest?
have none, but it seemed like at one point I was thinking something I was reading. So if I come up with, I'll make a disclosure before the meeting. So thank you.
Okay. As for me, I do not have any conflict of interest, commissioners. So, all right. Moving on to our public comment. Mac?
Okay, with our public comments today, I don't see anybody signed up in the room to make a public comment. Is there anybody online wishing to make a public comment? Not seeing anybody unmute themselves. Commissioners, that's your public comment period for today.
Okay. Thank you, Mac. Moving forward with our agenda, we are now on the consent agenda, and it looks as though we've got two items. Mac?
Okay, item number 1 on here is approval for the June 4th, 2024 commission meeting minutes. Item number 2 is approval of $11,068 in small purchases. We had $5,468 for the Sheriff's Office Connex storage container. They had purchased, I think it was Utah County that was getting rid of their inmate beds. Knowing that with the jail expansion, we're going to increase our bed space. We took those used beds at premium, and now we have to have a place to store it. And so we're sticking a Connex box that'll be used during construction as well as to store those additional beds. And then you have $5,600 in a purchase for a Life Loop. It's an online programming for aging services. That today is your consent agenda items.
Okay, commissioners.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Commissioner Adams,
I'll second it.
seconded by Commissioner Stubbs. Any comments or questions, commissioners? Hearing or seeing no questions, let's take a vote. All those in favor of the consent agenda items? Aye.
Aye.
That's 3 in favor. Motion carries unanimous. We'll move on to our business and action items for today. I'll go ahead and defer to Mac.
Okay, item number 3 is consideration and approval for the EIS scoping proposed modification for Lisbon Valley Mining Company mine plan of operations. Turn the time over to Nick.
Good morning.
Morning.
BLM is preparing an EIS for the Lisbon Valley Mining Company's plan of mining modifications. And as part of kicking this off, there's a scoping period. We are currently within that scoping period, which will end on June the 27th of this year. And you may recall you had a briefing meeting or so ago from the mining company showing a summary of what this proposal is that the EIS will analyze. So what I've done is listed some items that could be considered for scoping in this EIS, and they are included in this letter before you for your consideration. And you may recall also that San Juan County is a cooperating agency in this EIS process. So the letters before you, there were basically six or seven generalized items. There are some a little bit specific and should be included in this EIS, and it's open for your discussion, or if you have any others to add to this list.
Commissioners, you've got a letter before you. Is there any other items you might consider? Any questions or comments?
I have none, and I would move that we approve the signature of chairman on this letter.
Okay,
And
motion by
second it.
Commissioner Adams, second by Commissioner Stubbs. Any other questions or comments before our vote? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's 3 in favor, unanimous approval.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
preparing that, Nick.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to our next item. Mac?
Okay, our next item on the agenda. Let me swing through right here. Get caught up. Sorry about that. The next one, item number 4 on our agenda, is consideration and approval of the County Economic Development Board member terms. This one is by our teleworker, Director for Economic Development, Elaine. Good to see you.
Hello, good morning.
Good
Morning,
morning.
Elaine.
Good morning, Elaine.
Good to see everyone. Yes, we have 87% humidity here. Yeah, makes you kind of lethargic.
I bet.
Well, it's good to see all of you, and thank you. I went through, we had some changes with the board, and I went through so that we can have approval for these board members that are listed here, which would be Commissioner Stubbs, Caden Kulo, Ben Mulestein, and Karen Whipple, to have their terms expired, and we want to get them renewed till January 31st of 2026.
Okay.
So that was my conflict of interest. I was wondering do I need to vote for myself or I just
You can
obtain
totally
myself?
vote.
You better vote for yourself. Or you
Yes.
might not get a vote.
So I knew I had maybe a conflict, but I couldn't remember which one it was. But okay.
Okay. Well, there are the recommended members for the Community Impact
I'll
Development
make a
Board.
motion that we appoint the members as presented to serve another term on this board.
Okay, I will make that second.
So just a clarification real quick, if I may. Sorry about that.
Go ahead, Matt.
Do these expire in January 2024? So they only go for 6 months, 7 months?
They were there a year, and now we have a renewal for 2 years.
So change the date on that to 2025, 26?
Is it 27, I thought?
She just saying.
Oh,
their
sorry.
terms
Oh, you have it. All right.
expired.
Sorry.
In the bottom it
We'll
says,
renew them for 2 years.
So you got till 2026 on
Yeah.
that.
Yes, the end of January 2026.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we were clear
Yeah.
on that. So we don't want to bring them back next year.
Exactly. So they'll serve because they were first year participants on the board, and then the bylaws indicate that it's 1 year, and then they have to go for renewal. So
Okay. This is a state required board that the county has to receive our economic development grant funds.
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. This board is critically important. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, we've got motion and a second. Any other questions or comments before our vote? Seeing none, let's all take a vote then. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
3 in favor. Motion carries as unanimous. Congratulations to the board. Continue their work.
So they're all well trained, right, Elaine?
Yes, they are. They really are.
By the best.
They've made some really great decisions, and there'll be some upcoming decisions that will be, when we apply for the rural grant later on this fall, there'll be important decisions to make about, do we allocate the state funding partially to Main Street improvements, which I would recommend to that board, and a few grants given out to local businesses that will generate revenue coming back into the county. So I think the people that are on this board have done they did such a great job going through over 40 applications this past December, January. They went through and allocating all the funding. It took like 3 meetings. So we're really lucky to have all of these volunteers on this board.
Very good. All right, then let's move on to our next item.
Thanks, Elaine.
Thank you. Thank
Don't
you.
absorb too much of that humidity.
At least I won't get more wrinkles.
I know.
Good to see you.
Good to see you all too. I miss you.
Miss you too.
Okay, the next one on here is item number 5, consideration and approval for San Juan County's participation in the Utah Office of Tourism Co-op Marketing Grant application for $250,000. This one here, we have Allison, who is kind of now in charge of all visitor services for the county. She is all tourism, and so welcome. This is your first time presenting.
It is.
It's super awesome.
This is your favorite part of the job.
That's exactly.
Is this your favorite part of the job, coming before the
yet.
commission?
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Thank you for your time this morning. I'm here to request the Commission's consideration and approval for our letter of financial commitment for the Visitor Services Office application for the annual co-op marketing grant from the Utah Office of Tourism. This is a grant that our office applies for every year. This is how we essentially run our annual marketing program. So the maximum amount that we can apply for this year is $250,000. And we are applying for the full amount. It's a 1-to-1 match. So since we're requesting the full amount from the Utah Office of Tourism, they need to know that the county will allow our office to use $250,000 of our 2025 budget for the items laid out in our grant proposal, which I passed out a copy of our budget proposal. Yesterday, our tourism tax advisory met, and I presented this budget proposal for next year, and they did vote unanimously to approve this marketing plan for next year. So the last thing I need is a letter of financial support from the commission, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the budget.
Do we know anybody in the Office of Tourism that might help?
That might help. I think we have some former county residents up there now.
Do you have a powerful person be in charge? Somebody.
We're happy to have Natalie.
Yeah.
Okay, commissioners, how would you like to move?
I'll make a motion that we authorize the chair to sign the letter of commitment to the Office of Tourism.
Well, could you specify in your motion what color ink you would like that chair to say? Motion by Commissioner Adams.
I'll second.
Green, blue, yellow.
Second by Commissioner Stubbs. Any other comments or questions, commissioners?
I just basically want to welcome you and your new position, and I'm excited because your department, along with Elaine, you are my cheerleaders. That's the place where I always go to get some cheers, and I'm so looking forward to continue to work with you and everybody else in the department. Thank you. We welcome you in your new position, and I know you'll do really well because you have been doing a really good job all this year. So thank you.
I appreciate that.
Very good. All right.
I feel the same way.
Thank you.
I'll third that comment. So
Thank
okay.
you.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 That's 3 unanimous in favor. So
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
thank you.
Thanks, Allison. Good luck up there. This is when you look at TRT and we have the requirement from the state to make sure we're spending, I believe it's 70% towards marketing. And if you look through those line items that she's selected on there, all of those efforts on here are strictly for marketing. And so it helps kind of extend the TRT money that we receive, and that requirement for marketing, it kind of doubles the dollar if we're able to get that. And so super awesome program. We're definitely grateful for the state to be able to duplicate our money and extend it further than what we can on our own.
Thank you.
Okay, next one on our agenda is item number 6, consideration and approval of interlocal agreement with e-cigarette, tobacco, and other drug prevention between San Juan County and Drug Free Utah Educational Incorporated. Grant, take away.
Good morning, Commissioners Mack.
Morning,
I
Grant.
have an example of what this pays for here. I do apologize. This is last year's version. It does have our old logo. Please don't pay attention to that. We are updating to make sure we have the county's logo.
That's cool.
But you can see here, based on what the Drug Safe Utah, and I do need to point this out, Matt caught this error this morning here. I accidentally put Drug Free Utah. So one proposal here is that if you are able to approve this, that it be contingent on the amendment that it's a Drug Safe Utah. That's their official term. But the proposal is that this tobacco education campaign focus on vaping, e-cigarettes, and similar things, where the data shows in the SHARP survey, which we do appreciate support of that survey because it does guide our activities. So we can understand, where are the youth right now? What are they interested in? What are their risky behaviors? What are their protective behaviors? And here's an example. Drug Safety Utah is able to use those data and then develop some tailored materials for our county. And this is not just done for us or upon us, but this is in partnership with the Youth Coalition that's partnered with the San Juan County Prevention and Action Coalition, but it is specifically the Youth Coalition. And so you can see how, some local images there, some local language. And really with this, to support some of the other things I presented, our other contracts through the SB 37 Tobacco Prevention and Control Funds are more direct to, say, Lyman Middle School, ARL, to the Hojo Goina program, which is part of UNHS. Those are more directly educating with the kids, with parents, and this is more creating materials to support those direct activities. And this one, the amount here pays for, like I said, these activities, and that's $16,000 there. And we have been working with Drug Safe Utah since at least 2015. It may have been before that, but that's the oldest record we have. Just, there's been some turnover here and there, but it has been an ongoing relationship. So there were some amendments that you would like to see made, right?
So, commissioners, if you're okay with the theory of this, we do have a requirement to expend these funds before the end of the state's fiscal year, and so that total contract amount would be $16,450, right?
All right.
There's some structural changes that we need to make to this agreement. If you're okay with approving the theory and allowing me and Grant to make changes to the contract, and then get the appropriate contract on here, do some structural modifications, put the scope of work in the contract, and then authorize me to sign it in your behalf, then we can go ahead and proceed with that and then make changes to the contract as we can. Then we'll just run it through the attorney's office before we final signature.
Grant, what's the difference danger-wise between just regularly smoking a cigarette and vaping?
So with tobacco smoking in the commercial sense, setting aside traditional use of tobacco, it is linked with lung cancer and those types of effects downstream, down the road. Versus e-cigarettes, there's a few layers to this. One, we do have the nicotine in there, and in varying amounts. So some argue that there could be a use for regulation to help us at least know how much nicotine or other contents are in the e-cigarettes, but that's where we're at right now, is we don't really know how much. It's not standardized, things like that. So pros and cons to regulations. I'm not, lobbying for anything like that, but just that's the situation we're in compared to commercial tobacco, which is regulated, and we know the contents, and we also know the risk. Along with that, there's the nicotine, which is highly addictive. There you have mostly the risk of being addicted to a substance. There's not as much of a health risk there as far as cancer, but that said, there's the mystery of what other contents are in there. It's going to vary by brand, who put it together, or is it maybe self-administered, like you put your own contents in there. So that's going to vary. And so that's what these materials are trying to educate on, help kids as well as parents understand, be able to have those conversations. And we've talked about that before with the other tobacco efforts, is empowering parents to say, yeah, these are uncomfortable conversations, not easy, but doable. We can have these conversations with our kids as well as with each other as adults, because we're at risk too. We need to understand this is new. How does this work? What is the risk? So that's my brief summary. Great question.
In the county, as we looked at the SHARP survey, we're seeing a decline in overall tobacco utilization amongst teens here. But on the flip side of it, you're seeing an increase in the e-cigarette and the vaping side of it. And so it's like they're tailoring off of the Marlboro Man concept and going to the e-cigarette side, which is a little bit more convenient to smoke and get a hold of. We're also seeing one of the concerns, like here in Monticello, that we're seeing that being introduced and usage as early as 6th grade. And so a little bit earlier on than we had anticipated. And so programs like this will actually help get into the schools, bring more awareness, especially at those early ages, to try to prevent that tobacco usage.
Again, that SHARP data that's been powerful.
I think sometimes, things like e-cigarette, it kind of becomes a social barrier. You have maybe peers that don't do it, and you become judged by this, and it becomes a social barrier that may prevent friendship build up, and sometimes there'll be an isolation for some people if it's not popular among your peers. And so I kind of like how your booklet has activities and different things, and I noticed that, especially with one youth about community this in my district, in the past, it had to do with alcohol, and many of the young people involved with alcohol and many deaths of young people. But now I noticed that they're involved in sports. They travel with a basketball team, and some of the parents are kind of involved in taking them, and that you just don't see the results of alcohol being involved in this young life. And I think with programs like this and community events like where youth can get involved with other things, and sometimes we do things like that just to attract to be unique, or and so if we can have more things that would attract the students to something else, the youth, before they decide, well, this looks cool or whatever. There's other things that can be cool and they're safe, and I think it brings up a life not so isolated sometimes when you're, especially in small communities. We have the tendency to put people in categories and things like that, and I think but I had the opportunity to work with 2 youth groups this past week. One was with a group that came from Mapleton, Utah. About 16, they came to paint a house in Westwater.
Oh, yeah.
And another group, they was here taking a whole week learning how to make movies and videos, and I got to go to see their production at the theater. And it was amazing. And these are Youth from Blanding, the second group, and they how creative they were, and, they had a week. And so if we can have multiple things to help the youth make healthier choices, I guess.
Yeah, and some of us from the coalition attended the Utah Prevention Summit in Bryce Canyon last week, and one of the presenters shared data about how if we spread positive community norms, that can actually help with some of this peer pressure, where sometimes, if you look in the booklet there, it says about 10% of our youth have tried e-cigarettes. They're saying, along with that, that's still true, to share the flip side of that, 90% of kids have not tried it.
Yeah.
And that message can actually help when you're facing that pressure.
Yeah.
Like, oh, someone's offering me this, but most of my friends don't do this, right? And that they showed how over time, as you spread that message, that most kids aren't doing this, right?
Yeah.
It can help spread that norm, that's actually what's normal. Sometimes we feel like this new thing is happening and it means everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
But really it's not that. And so that was one great message we heard from the summit. Not to make it rose colored or anything else, right? But just to be accurate, actually, in the flip side too. So
Thank you.
great. And the back of the booklet does have some guidance about stress management, and again about how to talk with your kids. So
that's good. Thank you.
I think since we're doing comments now, Grant, just want to say thank you for your response to the survey. I know that, like Mac was saying, this was one of those that showed a need, a concern from some of the comments that some students were making about how accessible it is and how they've become users of vape pens. So thank you for preparing a response to address that need. I wanted to let you know that in the governor's, it's no longer called the Governor's Caucus, the Native American Caucus.
Oh, they have a new name?
They're referring it to the Native American Summit now.
Okay.
And this year, under the Utah Division of Indian Affairs, it was hosted this past Friday. And the tribes there, specifically the Paiute tribe, was expressing their concerns that their youth are accessing not only vape pens, but hemp and THC infused.
Right.
And so I imagine it's only a matter of time when that will not only grow beyond tobacco and high nicotine infused vape pens, but THC and hemp. And if that's a pandemic with the Paiute youth, we're at risk as well, I imagine. So I would recommend maybe not only focusing just on nicotine, but if you could maybe look into hemp and the dangers of hemp and THC. That would be valuable. I would recommend you contact Hillary Marcus out of the Office of Indian Health and Family Services. She's a great resource for bringing in Native American or culturally appropriate messaging for Native American youth and families.
She was my intern 12 years ago.
Very good.
Actually, I got to see her at the meeting in Montezuma Creek.
Very
just a
good.
few weeks ago.
Very good. And perhaps a message to our Native youth that vaping has no place in our ceremonial practices. So why should we allow our youth to be destroyed by something foreign? Let's focus on the ceremonial practices and the meaning behind those ceremonial practices. I think would be wonderful messaging, and to help the Native American families do that messaging, I think would be great. So that's my best recommendations for you, and I'm grateful for your work and everything that the health program does. So I'll leave my comments at that. Commissioners, we need a motion with, I think, to allow our administrator to adjust the language in the contract with the health director, and also to allow the administrator to sign off on the document. So that's
I will make a motion to support that.
okay. Motion by Commissioner Stubbs,
Second.
second by Commissioner Adams. Any other comments or questions, commissioners?
Just thank you for all you do.
Thank you all
Okay.
for the support and for staying up to speed. I know there's a lot of topics going on, and I appreciate you prioritizing these and helping answer Commissioner Adams' question, because that is actually a very important priority right now in terms of the marijuana use in the e-cigarettes, and especially among youth. When adults, it's a concern, but especially youth when their brains are still developing and things like that. So thank you for highlighting that.
Very good.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and take a vote then. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's 3 in favor. Motion carries unanimously.
I'll follow up with you, Mac, on that. Thank you,
All
Commissioners.
right, thanks, Scott. Okay, item number 7 is consideration and approval of a grant of utility easement agreement between San Juan County Building Authority and Blanding City Municipal Corporation. Got to work on some of the language with that, where the municipal authority transfers those to the county after the loan. So this may, where we still have the loan with, so the grant or the utility easement is in, it's just right directly adjacent to the clinic and public health building. San Juan Counseling is also in that building. They need an easement to allow for a gas line and power line to go on the side of that property there, where it's under a loan. We just got to make sure that we're under the right authority on there. So I'll talk to our bonding agent, but pretty much they just want this easement to go through so they can construct and install that gas line that goes down to the adjacent properties down through there. I like the fact that we would have another stub in. There's the vacant property right there next to that building that remains kind of just empty. This would allow for another utility access point on the back side of the property rather than from the road itself there in Blanding. Blanding City is requested to allow for this, and just going through that proper procedure to allow for that easement to go through.
Commissioners, how would you like to move?
It's your territory.
I just want to make a comment. I had the opportunity to initiate working with this project. And this morning, as I left town, I passed that property, and there's bulldozers already working on improving. They're going to, some type of businesses are going to go up, and that's, I think it's good news for Blanding and for the county just to have more new property. Anyway, so I was excited to be able to work with them on this project, and I want to make a motion that we approve it.
Very good. Motion by Commissioner Stubbs,
Second.
second by Commissioner Adams. Any other comments, commissioners? Hearing none, let's go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's 3 in favor. It's a unanimous approval. Thank you, commissioners.
Okay, the next item on here is consideration and approval for the communication site lease renewal between the United States of America and San Juan County for the Upper Horse Flat communication site. We could have stuck this under consent agenda, but because you haven't seen these before, I thought I'd bring it just as a business action item. We do have an existing tower on both the Upper Horse Flat and also on Cedar Mesa that continue to broadcast both our VHF system as well as our TV communications throughout the county. And so we're grateful that we're able to continue these leases with the BLM. The leases don't allow us to really improve the site other than what we have there. We have to go back through the BLM if we're looking for modifications for approvals. And a couple of years ago, we tried to work with the Utah Communication Authority to get a higher tower there on one of these sites, and it just going through the tower height process because we were adding a little bit higher tower there. So there were a couple protests because it would have a red blinking light in Bears Ears, and so it was denied the tower height. But nevertheless, we still have those functioning towers that exist there right now. We weren't able to get the approval to allow Utah Communications Authority to add their 800 megahertz system, which was the requirement for the height to allow that system to be put on there. But nevertheless, we're grateful for the opportunity to continue to utilize those two of these locations within the county for our towers.
Mac, what's the duration of our agreement?
These are typically a 5-year. Let me just check, make sure
There's one.
So
lease.
sorry. So you got the lease will terminate at 1 minute after midnight on December 31st, 2053.
2053. So
30 years.
So just remind
so
me.
we'll hopefully be gone by then.
It's 2053. Yeah, these are a headache for both BLM and us. Grateful for the long term in there because it has, we're required by law, by state code, to always provide public television.
Right.
And because of this tower, things like that can continue to be broadcasted, as well as we only have one 800 megahertz tower in here, which is kind of the Cadillac for the state's communication. But because of our terrain here in the canyons and just the distance of the county, it takes multiple counties to run our VHF program. Now, our VHF program has been old reliable for us. So during the eclipse, we brought in these temporary cell phone towers, and we figured we were covered with cell phone coverage with all the people that came here, and there wasn't a massive amount, but with the people that came here, the cell phone system collapsed, and so they weren't able to utilize cell phone for emergency operations and call outs with the sheriff and the ambulance, things like that. And then it went to the 800 megahertz, which should be the reliable with the state. You typically see that along I-15 corridor, that the Highway Patrol communicates off of that, as well as the sheriff's, BLM officers, all of that. That also failed. But the one that stood up and stood the test of time was the VHF program. We considered trying to get out of VHF, but because of our terrain and that, there's just no getting around it. That old technology is super reliable, and so we need to continue to invest in that. And renewing these leases continues throughout that until the state has more towers here for the 800 megahertz system, and until they can figure out how to get down in the canyons and back up and out. You'll see the need for these towers that will continue. we're not expanding a tower network. We're just utilizing what we've had here.
Well, as we have more people using cell phones and depending on them, and
Yes.
it is kind of hard to, for me, it's kind of hard to how you navigate the two nations that I represent, because, like for instance, Commissioner Harvey and I, we were in a meeting, a very important meeting, coming from Salt Lake, and a Zoom meeting, and we have different people down south, including Commissioner Harvey, and on cell phone, and it was really hard to operate. So on one hand, we need that. If people get lost, we need a way to find them so they can call us on the phone. But then we have restriction of towers down within the Navajo Strip. So how do we reconcile, the opposition on towers and having a college that would need, the new campus that would need to depend on tower service to deliver the classes, and also telehealth is so important nowadays, because now since COVID, people can call and do it on their phones, but if we don't have the service, then it is, for me, it's a really hard dilemma to respect the desires of the people in the Navajo Nation, but then also see the limitation that brings to their people by not having those towers that are so important, And so I got a letter from a young person, tell me how this person is so worried about the bats and the different animals because of this big tower. And I did not respond, but my response wanted to say, but what's going to happen to the little children of that area if they don't keep up with the technology that they need to be successful in the years to come? And so it's something that I struggle with, serving both sides of the two nations, I guess. And
yeah.
And how you respect, the desire of the people there, but also see the limitation that come by not having that technology that can improve their life. And anyway,
it's important. And, we had a discussion the other day with EUTV, which is the affiliation under Southeastern Utah that we belong to, and it's comprised of commissioners as well as our TV operators. So we have a TV operator, San Juan TV, that maintains all the microwave systems here throughout the county, and we all meet together and discuss television needs. And that was one of the things that we talked about this last meeting. Was a lot of people are moving into the digital side of it and kind of internet-based television. And so the comments, is when do we start heading to that? I mentioned earlier to some of you that we had an incident up on Abajo here where a chunk of ice had fallen off and damaged one of the microwaves, and it's about a $45,000 fix. And with that discussion, I was like, well, do we replace this microwave, or do we start going into the internet-based systems, which doesn't require such a big microwave? And that was one of the things that we touched on for San Juan County, is a lot of people are transitioning to internet-based television. So should we, on this new microwave, transition that as well? Here in San Juan County, it makes it a little bit more difficult because we still have a lot of our citizens that don't have internet, and so they wouldn't receive the broadcast. But they do have, the digital antenna that can pick up the TV stations
for hardly any, for no cost to them.
Yes, we can't get rid of our microwave system because we don't have internet everywhere, and so it's kind of like we're a little bit behind the times. But there's a lot of areas in the state that are a little bit behind on on internet access and availability. And so we'll continue to keep towers like this up because it's a reliable system. Our microwave system, we still need it. We still have people that all they have is a TV antenna, and that's how they receive their TV. We, by law, still need to provide it, and so we continue to do our best. But until the technology can advance, but not even just the technology's advanced to where a lot of youth nowadays that have access to the internet, they don't have, TV antennas on their home.
Yeah.
They're strictly, they don't even go with cable companies anymore. They're on Amazon Prime or Hulu or whatever the platform is based off of the internet that provides the channels. But we're not there yet as a citizenry with the available internet until we can put these towers in place to get the systems there. And that's what we're hoping that some members of the public that fight this is, you're being left behind, not just on a worldwide basis, but the access to the information and education. Now, with that hand also comes the harms of it. There's some, as we did that broadband study, down at the chapters, there are some residents down there in the Navajo Nation that were adamant that they do not want internet in their communities because they see the harmful effects that it has on youth.
Yeah.
And so they're like, nope, don't bring it here. We don't want it.
Yeah.
But just rather stay with our cultural ways. And totally understandable. Yes, I get it. Internet crimes are prevalent, especially in teenagers, and hopefully with the Children's Justice Center, we can help along those fronts. But these systems, like our towers that we have, and implementing new towers to get the technology to our citizens, it's essential. And that's how we classified it here in San Juan County, as these are essential to emergency response, emergency, kind of like you mentioned, the tele-meta health. I mean, that gives you a doctor right there in your home at any time. And so it cuts down on citizens' costs of driving 4 hours to get to the doctor.
Well, especially with the gasoline costs and everything, and
just
time.
availability.
And sometimes it requires, if it's an elderly person, it requires somebody to miss work to go take that person. And sometimes it's kind of hard to understand. The tradition is you help your elderly first, and then you worry about your job. I mean, that's how it is. You just take care of them. So if you have to be taking somebody to different places, it becomes hard to be able to keep your job. And so there's lots of benefits, but it's kind of hard to see, to be able to have the wisdom to see both sides and be able to come up with an amazing solution. And I'll just say this, I was going to do part of my report, but I'll just say this. Another thing that I was really excited. I've been working with the college and talking to Navajo Health System about having a drone-based business, located like in Blanding, where they can have a delivery if they need blood and the other clinics and things like that. And I was very excited about that. And the college has finished the first year of drone construction and repair, which have been really good if you have those kind of industry here. But when I made my report to the Oljedo chapter, one of the members of the secretary, she graciously and very nice said, Commissioner Stubbs, drones are banned from this area. And so it took me a while to think about where, to me, I got excited thinking in an area where it's limited to having mortar and brick and mortar business, the possibility that can be with drones, and so I had to get used to the idea, adjusting to what, having belonged to different nations, and being, in my case, being two different nations, in lots of ways very different, I had to understand, their perspective, that they don't want certain things, but it took me a while for this appointment, and as I had some visitors here last week, they deal with these type of things, and they had a zip line, I think is the name of business they were trying to bring to San Juan County. They just couldn't understand, and so so it's something that in the process of growing in this job, I had to be mindful and pray for wisdom, that I have the wisdom to figure out how I can help.
I'll make a motion to approve the communication site lease renewal with the caveat that Mac can negotiate what he needs to.
Motion by Commissioner Adams,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Stubbs. Any other comments, questions, commissioners? Having none, let's vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's 3 in favor to renew the lease. Unanimous vote.
You want me to make the same motion
Sure.
on the next one?
Yeah, this one's for the Cedar Mesa Communication Site.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the communication site lease renewal on Cedar Mesa Communications and give Mac the authority to negotiate what he needs to.
Motion by Commissioner Adams,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Stubbs. Any other comments or questions? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's 3 in favor. Unanimous vote. Motion carries.
Okay, the next one here, item number 10, consideration and approval of a resolution of the governing body of San Juan County authorizing the execution and county election of the Tier 2 Public Safety Employee Retirement Contributions for the 2024 through 2025 state fiscal year. Talked to you a couple times about the changes in URS where with our public safety employees, they can now participate in a carve-out that goes towards their retirement. With that carve-out, it's up to 4.75% that there are 4.73%. In the past, the county has already participated and elected to cover our public safety employees' carve-out costs of 2.14% per employee that's on that Tier 2 program who also elects to contribute. So if they elect to contribute in this, the county's covered those costs up to that 2.14%. URS, the state's retirement system, has now asked, and it has increased that amount to 4.73. So counties, you can either keep it at the 2.14% or do the total, which is 4.73% of that carve out. Now that, like I'd mentioned, the Tier 2 employees in public safety still have to elect on this contribution, but the county covers that contribution amount. Not all will always elect to cover that. But if they do, then we'll cover up to the 4.73. This has been in the HR world and county manager, city manager, and their HRs. This has been a heavy discussion. This was one of those things that Commissioner Adams loves, is that state mandate where we were kind of forced, either the employee's going to be picking it up if they want to contribute more to their Tier 2 retirement program. Either the county covers the cost or the employee covers the cost. As I just watched throughout the different counties in the state, it seems like most of the counties are electing to cover those contribution costs for public safety employees. And so for me, I put this resolution there if it's something that you need to decide on today of whether or not you want to elect the full amount. A lot of counties are seriously concerned. And for when you look at retirement, we kind of see this as a stopgap measure to make Utah retirement system whole with this generation that is now retirement age and retiring. So it puts more money in the URS coffers, especially if when you retire, you're taking a lump sum instead of spacing it out throughout the years. And so part of this, you know, when I was talking to the URS consultant, he's like, yeah, this is just to make them whole. We worry about the state coming and asking for more. So if we elect today to participate fully and pay for that contribution at 4.73%, we can never go back. So it's something that the county will always be on the hook for from here on out. We worry that the state may adjust that again and come for more. And then, well, we've done it twice now. Do we have to do it a third time? And where does this stop? What's the ceiling? So there is some concern with that aspect of it. The difference for us is just over $15,000 if we elect to participate and cover that full amount, 4.73. So it's not
$15,000 per employee.
No, in total of those that we're already covering the 2.14. Yes, and so it's not a huge
mainly
amount.
our people at the sheriff's department.
The new sheriff, newer on the tier 2. So a lot of us we've worked in government before are on the tier 1 system, and there's concerns about tier 1. There's concerns from tier 1 people, you know, saying, well, county, you're covering tier 2 compensated amount, and you're not doing anything for tier 1 public safety employees or just general employees. And so there is kind of that worry, yet tier 1 is a lot more lucrative retirement and doesn't have the years of service. So our tier 1 is a 30-year, tier 2s are a 35-year, and so there's tier 1 is a little bit, it's always better to be a tier 1 than it is a tier 2, but our new employees, they don't get a choice. They're on tier 2 automatically. There is worry that in the future they'll come after tier 1 and start meddling that down. Yet on the employee basis, it's like, well, county, you're contributing to their retirement over here. You're not contributing anything over here other than just your standard amount that has always been. I have to contribute. Well, why don't you cover my contribution point? And so there is this tug of war between tier 1, tier 2 fights. But on here that they've questioned it, we've got to respond to them here this week of whether or not we're covering that additional $15,000 for public safety employees. Now, that can change that total amount, because if that tier 2 individual decides they don't want to go that contribution route anymore and just do their regular tier 2, then that amount that we're paying goes away as well. And so across the board, I'm kind of seeing that they'd strongly encourage and advise that I see some counties giving a stipend for this instead of a contribution that sticks us forever at the 4.73. I see some counties and cities doing a stipend, but URS has been adamant that you don't change their pay, overall pay, because if you do that, then it also increases the overall take when they retire. So that puts the system in need of more money. And so they're like, don't give employees raises to compensate for this. But yet I see some of the cities and counties doing a stipend to offset that instead of getting stuck in a 4.73. For me, where it was $15,000, that's not a lot in the grand scheme of how much we pay in retirement. And so for me, I don't see a harm with it. I know that.
Do other people coming into the system get to elect to go to tier 2?
They're automatically tier 2, new employees. But then this compensation amount, if they choose this, we would
So
be
what
paying
will it do to the county in other years? This year it's 15,000.
It could. So if we get more employees, and I think over in the sheriff's office we got 1 vacancy, so we're pretty much full. If you authorize more employees for public safety, then that would increase that total amount of that 15,000 if they choose to go that contributed.
Do they have to contribute?
We're paying
They're in there, or we do all the contributing?
We do all the contributing. Some counties have just said, no, we're not going to contribute. If you want that retirement, then you contribute out of your own pocket for that. And that's where they're looking at this stipend route. It's like, well, we'll let you do the additional compensation, but give you a stipend to cover that. And then that increased their total overall earnings at the end of the year that was reported to URS. And so
then affects their taxes.
Adds to the problem.
Affect taxes and other things.
Yes, yep.
And so,
you're tier 5. Did you know that?
I thought it was 13.
Yeah,
The lucky number.
You're 0.01.
No, it's kind of interesting. I was just wondering, when you had two different systems for the workers, how does affect? Like when I was working at a college, we had one system, and then somebody came with an idea, and they put people in the other system.
Mm-hmm.
So Brian ended up in the other system, and I just stayed with the state of Utah. The state of Utah retirement plan has been really good for me.
Yeah.
The TI Craft is all on stocks, and there's some time when those years when, in the beginning, after President Obama, there was a hit in the stock market, and that can be really scary. So sometimes, and the interesting thing, there was 2 people that proposed that idea, but they stay with the Utah retirement, but lots of the other people went with that proposed idea that came from those 2 people. But yeah, sometimes we don't know because we have the tendency to think about today. Okay, it'd be nice to have a chunk of money, or it'd be this or that. And sometimes people make decisions on that will affect them in the years to come when they have to continue to keep working because they don't have enough.
Yeah.
There's not enough Social Security or not enough retirement or whatever.
I think with us, and especially public safety, and you just look at the average turnover rate in government across the nation is around 5 years. So you can anticipate, on average, employees will stick with you for 5 years. Some positions is less than that. I think for us in the public safety side of it, I've got 20 years in government, and I'm here for the retirement. That's, to me, I know that if I work another 10 years, well, now I have a pension, of all those years of service in the state of Utah program and the state of Utah system. I think things like this help with the avoidance of turnover. If they're in there for 5 years and then like, okay, I have 5 years of retirement now, and then that's something. That's why people work for government. We're not always the highest paid, especially with the private sector. But our retirement is a lot better than private sector, and so these carrots, and especially with public safety positions, I would have to say they would probably say opposite, but that's not a lot of fun. I mean, they're front line. They're wearing the Kevlar vests for a reason. They're carrying the gun for the reason, and things like this, the contribution, even though it pushes you up to the 4.73%, it's a carrot. If the employees all of a sudden have to start paying out of pocket for retirement, that's a bit concerning, especially when you look at the stabilization of a retirement program. When employees have to start contributing more just to keep it whole, and to retire from it, it's like, man, I can take that 4.73% of my paycheck and go work for this other company, and who knows, I may not live past 65, or public safety, they're a little bit, they're a 20-year retirement, but I think this is an extra carrot that helps us get longer term employees, and so for $15,000, we're hopeful, if we can't give it on the paycheck side of it, then we can help them out with the retirement part of it. then hopefully we can get your longer term employees that can rise up through the ranks and better experience, better, higher qualified public safety officers.
It becomes a benefit to them instead of being like with the insurance last time when people think about, even though we were giving them money to help them with insurance, it was kind of hard to to recognize.
On the flip side of it, you got a high mental health, and you know, those just the volatile positions that they are. But it's up to you to decide. You know, today that's essentially what we've got on there. It's across the board. Like I said, counties are just doing different things to either try to get around it. The counties closest to us have all elected to pay for the contribution.
We have a lot of competition from one of our neighbors.
We do. Mm-hmm. Yep,
from
absolutely.
Our big sister trying to, so makes sense. Thank you. I will make a motion that we approve it.
Motion by Commissioner Stubbs to approve.
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Adams. Any other comments or questions, commissioners?
No?
I just want to express appreciate the support from the commissioners for our public safety. We want to value them, keep them on for as long as we can, and they're always putting their lives in danger. I hope with this being said, our officers are more willing to look into ways they can assist our tribal communities as well. And hopefully this is one of those gestures where they'll be considerate of that too. So moving forward, that's just my comments, commissioners.
I guess I want to make a quick comment. I'm very impressed with some youth that are applying to be.
Me too.
I guess by one of these days, if I had to sustain anybody, I had to make a disclaimer. But our granddaughters, that you married them. Mm-hmm. He's going to be working for the prison.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
so
corrections officer.
Anyway, so his brother already finished and he's working, I think. And then it's also Daniel Young, I think, is a new working for the sheriff department too. And his mom and I used to work at the college. He used to be this little boy. He used to be my dance partner when we used to chaperone the dances at the college. But I was very impressed that young people are willing to go into the line of work, and I'm glad I have more boys. Brian, I would say there's one of your boys, because I can't tell the difference who is highway patrol, like who is blinded policeman.
Okay, let's take a vote, commissioners. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's 3 in favor. Unanimous vote to approve.
Okay, this next one, I need you to make a motion to enter into the community, or the county community reinvestment agency.
Okay, commissioners need a motion to change your hats and skirts.
Make a motion, we go into our county community reinvestment agency meeting.
Motion to go into county community reinvestment by Commissioner Adams.
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Stubbs. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's 3 in favor. Motion carries. We're unanimous. We are now in county community reinvestment agency mode.
Okay, so now you're in an RDA. So with item 11 here, this is consideration and approval of a community reinvestment services agreement with the Utah Association of Counties and San Juan County's Community Reinvestment Agency for the creation of a renewable energy project area, as well as the associated documents that would come with the project area creation. We had been approached with by UAC, who is involved with a meeting with a company. They were working in other counties, and this company had indicated that they were about ready to begin a system here in San Juan County. And so when they heard San Juan County, they reached out to Commissioner Adams. I think he had a discussion with Commissioner Adams on this. We had never heard of them before, never even knew that they were considering San Juan County, whether it's a solar site, wind farm, whatever the case is. I think it was solar. What this company does is they like to see a project area that's created where they can receive some tax increment off of it, but then they pay it back through the renewable energy system. And so what you have before you today is that assistance. Like I told you earlier, is like, I'm underwater, I'm planking. There's no way that I have time to create a new project area. But UAC does. And so they've offered their services here to help us. If this company does come to San Juan County, we would utilize their assistance in that project area creation. When you create a project area, not only do you have the project area, but there's also a lot of public meetings. You reach out to every taxing entity in the county and go through their processes to see if they want to participate in the project areas. If they want to participate, then it's setting up the system, the participation agreements with each of those entities, the resolutions that come with it, to get that project area created. If it's just the county that does that on their own, then it's still setting up the project area budget that would be obtained through taxes, and then the finalization of that project area. So a lot of legwork behind the scenes, a lot of public meetings. And so UAC has, they've done this before. They're working, like I'd mentioned, with another county right now in the creation of a project area. They've agreed on here that the base fee would be $5,000 plus $1,500 per project area. We think only one right now would be coming, so it'd be about $5,000 to create that project area. And then in here, it's the county would pay UAC a base fee of $25,000. That we think that $25,000 can be negotiated with the project itself and have the developer pay back that cost to us. So essentially, you're putting $30,000 out, but anticipating only spending $5,000 on the project area creation, and that just pays for the association staff time on there instead of us having to have somebody else dedicated employee to do that. And so the terms on here, like I mentioned, the cost, the terms on here, we pushed it out to 2027. So if this company does do what they say that they're going to do, and if San Juan County is one of those counties that they are looking at adding these solar farms or whatever the case is, we put it out on here a 3-year term on this agreement with UAC. And so I appreciate the offer. I appreciate them extending a hand, just knowing that capacity right now for the county would be pretty difficult. So would welcome their help if this company does come and needs the project area so they can get the tax credits and everything for their project through the federal government. And so that's kind of the basis behind this agreement here.
Now, can we make a motion while we're in this?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Community Reinvestment Services Agreement with UAC.
Motion by Commissioner Adams,
I'll second it.
second by Commissioner Stubbs. My only comment is, this is valuable support. I know UAC has always been a great support to all of our counties within the state. For them to be extending their expertise to us and to, as commissioners, I know the public's been looking at ways we can increase our revenue for our county. And I think this is a good foot in the door. Not only do we have the expertise, but we have a company who's willing to look in our own community to to help us become stronger. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity. So I support it. Those are my statements, commissioners.
I would second and support this project. I think that the most important thing that can come from things like this is we put San Juan County in the map. Every time I invite guests to come, it takes them a while to get used to the difference between our counties and the other counties in the county. So I think the more contact we have with the rest of the state, it's a long-term benefit for us. I know people that have invited and they came for a meeting, they have, ever since, they have brought their families and they have done other visits. So I think besides what Commissioner Harvey said, it's another opportunity for us to showcase San Juan County.
Very good. Let's go ahead and take the vote. Then if we're in order, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's 3 in favor of the Community Reinvestment Services Agreement.
I'll make a motion to come out of our county community reinvestment agency meeting.
Motion by Commissioner Adams to come out.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Stubbs. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's 3 in favor. We are now out of Community Reinvestment Agency mode. Now we're back on our Board of Commissioners meeting. Next item is our commission reports. Commissioners, do you have any reports?
I have a few things.
Okay, Commissioner Adams, we'll start with you.
Okay, I attended a couple of days of our Stampede Rodeo here in Monticello, and was just enormously impressed with the growth of the rodeo from a 2-day to a 3-day rodeo. The rodeo was fantastic, and sponsorship was way up, and had lots of participation from around the area. I was told that because of the sponsorship, the payouts were the highest in the area, and so a lot of the participants that usually went to Cortez came to San Juan County. There's some needs down there. With growth, you get needs, and so I've been working with Mac and Kara on some of the possible expansions that we need for the arena down there. I also went last Saturday, drove up to Vernal, Utah, and attended the rodeo up there. Commissioner Horlock had invited all the commissioners that wanted to come to that rodeo. There was 5 of us that went ahead and went up, and that rodeo was already to the point that we want to get our rodeo to. It was a 3-day rodeo, and it was an amazing rodeo, and they've developed the rodeo into something that attracts a lot of the participants that end up going to the NFR. I want to make the other commissioners aware of some dates coming up. This week, I invited the USIP for their strategic retreat to come down to San Juan County. So they'll be arriving tomorrow afternoon down to the Desert Rose. In Bluff, we'll have a strategic planning meeting most of the day Thursday. We'll end about 3. I'm going to take them on a little trip down to Goosenecks up on the Muley Point to look at the area, and then we'll travel down to Forrest Gump Hill, end up in Monument Valley at the the restaurant there for a dinner Thursday night. Friday morning, we'll have our regular board meeting at Desert Rose, and then we'll adjourn about noon. In conjunction with that, I know that Goulding's closed the deal on the purchase with the Navajo Nation on June the 14th. So I'm not quite sure how. I guess that is the date when TRT no longer comes to the state of Utah or to the county.
Have we clarified, because it's still San Juan County property, so is it change the property to reservation land?
Oh, I think so.
It doesn't change it to tribal lands until they incorporate it into the Navajo Nation. It's what do they call it? Fee simple.
So we don't collect any taxes?
No, because they're basically tax exempt on property tax. So we would not receive any TRT.
Okay. So that's, well, maybe I won't ask that other question.
And we've asked that. We're in constant communication with the tax commission to try to find out on their end what they're seeing as well.
Because we do have other possibilities that they can buy things within the county, and so I just want to be nice to have a clarify.
Yeah, we don't receive anything on the Monument Valley Hotel or anything that's owned by the Navajo Nation either.
Okay.
59.5 million is what the Navajo Nation paid for that property.
Somebody was in a public meeting and said that we could have done better to stop them from selling that by doing better tax break. And I said, when you're going to collect close to $60 million, can you offer somebody a few dollars? No. I mean, you know, it involves more than just the people that operate. It involves a large family that they've probably been waiting for some kind of a benefit from the business, and so
there's
this was an opportunity.
300 jobs down there.
What?
There's 300 jobs
Did they
at Goulding's
gas station
that are local people that work there.
That's good.
I think anyway.
That's good. Anyway.
So then the last item of data I want to make you aware of is UDOT commission is going to meet in Monticello, hold their commission meeting in Monticello at the Hideout on June 28th, starting at 8:30 in the morning. And I've been trying to get that word out, invite people from around the area to come and give some advice to UDOT about their programs and stuff. I'll be there.
They had done a good job this year with lots of the paved roads around here. So
yeah.
I just have a question about that USEP meeting. So when is the time that the public can go? I mean,
the public?
Yeah, I mean, like if I wanted to attend, I mean, can I go anytime? I mean, you said you just telling us, or are you inviting us? Or?
No, I'm inviting you, and the public can come to the board meeting.
Okay.
On Friday morning, but if you want to come down to
on Thursday.
On Thursday, you're welcome to. If you want to go on the tour, you're welcome to.
Okay.
If you want to come and Thursday morning and give a welcome to them for coming to San Juan County.
Okay, so
I think we start at 9 o'clock.
That's for USIP or UDOT?
Well, USIP
USIP's
is this
Thursday.
week, UDOT is next week on the 28th.
Okay. Okay. Does that conclude your report, Commissioner
Yep.
Adams? Okay. All right. Thank you for that. I'll probably text you again to get those dates. So, Commissioner Stubbs, do you have any reports?
Probably some of the stuff I already talked during the regular meeting, like the Eastman, working with the Eastman with Blanding City. I also had this one project that been in the making for about a year, and it's developing a splash pad in the city of Blanding, and we been working to try and figure out now which system to do. And so I've been participating with the city. It is a project that I wrote a grant to clean energy as a county, and trying to use Blanding City as a partner, mainly because they had a good location, and they had location more than one reason. They had a property that would fit really well, and also I have visited with them before I did the grant writing about the possibility, and they were very excited about doing it. So I think there's still people excited about it. I discovered I have met with them twice as in their meetings, in the city meetings, and one of the concern they have, they want to see how the other towns have feel about it. And one comment was that they had never seen a splash pad in a small town, and through I had called different places, and Mayor Manson, he travels a lot, and he made the point of all the places that he go, and he noticed that even small town has they have splash pad. The question, and as I talk, so what I discovered as I called mayors and administrators to find out how they feel about it, I find out the administrators do not like splash pad. I find out the moms and children and dads and grandpas like splash pad. But then, in asking more questions, I find out the administrators and the mayors do not like anything that comes with a grant because you have to maintain it. And so I was in the process of being considered for the grant, where somebody brought up the point that Blanding did not want a splash pad. So the grantees gave me time to work, to bring to reapply, and it was a really nice letter, and the letter was from Mark Chandler, the head of Energy Fuel, encouraging me to come back, when I have more answer to all the questions that the city had. And so we're in the process of that, and so I kind of feel a little bit better when I find out there wasn't the splash pad that they dislike so much. It's just that when, like, for instance, Blanding have a baseball park that was created by somebody that wrote a wonderful grant. It's an amazing baseball park. We have wellness centers that's amazing. We have a new pickleball court that's amazing that is still being finished. We have tons of buildings that were built with grants, but the city had to worry about how to maintain it. And that was the case with lots of the cities. The mayors, and I don't know if it's the title that makes you, get people to call back, but they were all nice to call back and visit. And so I am gonna see it through in the sense to the end and see what the city decide. But anyway, so that's one project. One of the many projects I kind of been working on, and some of them are not to the point of confession yet. But anyway, so also this past week I had a group that represent two organizations come over to San Juan County. I have visited with them. I have met them through the 7-county coalition, and they came to visit San Juan County. They had a grant in mind, and when they came to San Juan County, they discovered that they had a grant ready. They were supposed to do in 4 weeks, and they have papers that they can sign, and they wanted to know who they want to include the tribe, and they understand that we operate different. The tribe needs more time to do things, so we kind of switched the idea, and we did another program. They had to try to educate the future workforce on minerals and critical materials, and so we enlisted a partnership with the college, and the college, through that effort, the college got $50,000 to develop a curriculum. I have been meeting with the curriculum writer and Chris Olson, and so it's coming along really well, and it's a program that lots of people are waiting, because it's being written for 11th and 12th grade, and there's other organizations that think they can use that in other parts of the nation. Anyway, so that's I kind of started with this group, and so they came, and we did 2 presentations. One presentation was to do with a new organization called 49G, and it's an organization that's receiving some fund from the state of Utah plus grants, and it's got to do with all forms of future energy and technology and mining and all this stuff. And then UNAMI is more with kind of green energy. So we had one day where it wasn't a game, it was kind of an exercise where we took parts. Each person had a different role, and it was interesting because my role was to represent a tribe, and as I can see what was being presented, I can see how I could not participate just because of the circumstances. Anyway, so it was an eye-opening to everybody. They had a role to play, kind of like a game where we had chips and we had to decide where we're going to put those chips. And the second day was basically trying to figure out, they would like to bring an industry to the county and find an industry that they can bring, and then use this organization as support. Like if they have something they need to sell, they can figure out how they can find buyers and things like that. So they also left with a realization of a new eye-opening for them. And I said they're talking about starting things that would probably get opposition from people that have a different view of the environment. And we trying to explain, they were kind of, and one, the idea was that, because they were talking about the drones, maybe something would help down south when I told them that we cannot fly drones in that area. There were 4 people, and I had never seen 4 people more quiet, trying to understand, I think. Anyway, so that to me was, it was 2 full days that week. And so in going to, that was Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. It was Tuesday and Wednesday, and then I traveled to Price to be at the 7-County Coalition. And one of the things I can probably say about the County Coalition, that that if things go good for the railroad plan, I think it will open possibility for San Juan County, and I just so excited to see what the outcomes will be of the railroad there. And so, we have little money here, and they have a little bit more money, and we make bigger decisions that are more scary while we have to approve the amount of money. But it does bring connection. I have made connection through that opportunity to serve there. This benefited San Juan County. And quickly, I'll say I had experience with two groups of young people. One group was from Mapleton, Utah. There was 5 adult leaders and 16 youth, 14 and 15 years old. They came as to Westwater, and they came in to help clean up some things, and they painted a home. And then, so I spent like an hour in the morning just chatting and talking about different things, and then in the afternoon they were having the day off, and they went all the way to Money Valley, and they went and visiting, and they came back, and I treated them to a good little refreshment type of thing. And so, but it was an amazing group of kids. I told them, if you come back next year, I'll make you Argentine food, which I don't volunteer for a big group because there's lots of work, but hopefully they'll come. And the second group was a group Blonding, I think mostly Blonding students that participate in a film class. They have been doing it for 4 years, and they had presentation of the first year and the second and the older videography, and it was amazing. They had at the theater. It was kind of like a festival of canes, when or even a festival like Park City where they're showing their work. And it was nice to see the kids being so proud, and I think one of the neat things was the Basin High School had a prom. Footloose was the theme. And what is the main author?
Or Kevin Bacon.
Yeah. Anyway, well, he was there. He didn't participate in the prom, but him and the young youth people from the high school, they fill up these bags. And so those bags some of those bags end up at the San Juan Theater in Blonding, and they gave it to some of the youth that were there. And so it was nice to see something that somebody else did in another area and end up here in San Juan Theater. Anyway, but yeah, lots of good things, and I try to stay ahead of trouble, and hopefully I not get so slow they're catching up with me, but thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Stubbs. I'll make mine as quick as possible. On June 11th, that was last Tuesday, Commissioner Stubbs and I attended the Navajo Revitalization Fund meeting, and there we were able to approve some projects for, I believe it was Navajo Mountain, and some projects for Mexican Water Chapter.
And finalized 7 homes for each chapter.
And we've approved some home projects for, an officer. And a chapter had updated its scope of work for asking for a scope of work change. They are actually going to renovate a modular building, which was the past TANF building in Anath, the Navajo Nation TANF building. They're going to renovate that building to become more of a home. So they're actually making progress and getting a Navajo Nation police officer station in the community. So that should help with the needs that the community asked. There was also a change in the funding amounts for the veterans funding, veterans housing funding at the Navajo Revitalization meeting. The next meeting, I think, is scheduled out for September. And so Commissioner Stubbs and I have been working on a library funding through Anna Chapter. I imagine we're going to ask for a special meeting when Anna Chapter provides a resolution for replacing 3 terminals in the Montezuma Creek Library, or 4 terminals. So that's still in the works, but it's still on our radar for Navajo revitalization funding. The other item I wanted to share with the commissioners is the governor, not the governor summit, the Native American summit that was held on Friday up at the University of Utah Valley University campus. We had Manuel Hart from the Ute Mountain Ute chairman who came. He was present there. From Navajo Nation, you had Council Delegate Curtis Yanito, and the Navajo Utah Commission, Clarence Rockwell, was present. Some of the things that Navajo Nation presented as a request before the governor, Utah governor, and assistant or lieutenant governor was present at that meeting. So it was a very, very nice gesture for them to be there, to be in the meeting and listening to the 8 Utah tribes. So it was a great opportunity. I think my best suggestion to the Utah Division of Indian Affairs is counties should also be present with the tribes and with the state agencies so that we can be more effective in being on the same pages as the tribes, so we're aware, not only just the state, but counties could be aware. But here, Delegate Yanito, he pleaded in behalf of Navajo Mountain and getting the environmental impact statement study completed. Was asking for $2.9 million to hopefully get that support again through the state of Utah, maybe at a legislative meeting at some point that would be considered. That was one of his pitches. The other highlight I want to make in Navajo Nation's presentation is they also are in support of doing a mutual aid agreement similar to the Utah Highway Patrol agreement, and so they're working through their legislative Law and Order Committee, which is where Delegate Herman Daniels, he is part of that committee, and so they will be preparing a draft agreement, and I imagine they will be contacting us to also provide input on that agreement. Interesting request from Navajo Nation was also a request to purchase more voting machines to be placed on the reservation during this current voting season. I imagine that's due to distance and travel, but that was just one request that was made. I'm highlighting another and one more request that, well, actually it was his point, was Delegate Herman Daniels wasn't present on Friday because he was at the Goulding's dedication on that Friday, and he announced in front of the governor that Navajo Nation did purchase Goulding's. Okay. So we actually have some time, commissioners, to address our TRF funding. I think
I got an email regarding that this morning.
Yeah.
It just took some time to go through and delete my junk emails and notice this one that came out of the tax commission, where they had mentioned that it appears right now that the Navajo Nation has come in under the tax commission as the Navajo Nation Hospitality Enterprise, who is licensed.
Purchase it, actually.
So they're licensed for sales tax, transient room tax, and tourism restaurant tax. And so with
So it
that
sounds like you're
registration, they would still be
continue.
paying those taxes.
Very good.
Hey,
And so we wouldn't lose out on any of
Well,
that income.
that's how I feel. Because
Very good.
in Arizona, the tribe has business outside the
Yeah.
reservation where they do pay
Yeah.
the taxes. So
So right now they're set up with the
You
tax
should-
commission for their quarterly,
Very good.
and then their first return should cover the period from when they purchased the business in April through the end of June.
Very
It'll
good.
be
it
due at the end of
benefits
July,
it,
and
it
so
benefits them
Very good.
still because it benefits the whole county. You know, lots of the people work in those businesses that we.
yeah.
Well, with
Minnesota.
that news, I'm thinking that'll only bring the discussion to
Absolutely.
let's get that mutual assist agreement done
Yeah.
with the
Yep.
nation. So
That
that's
also
wonderful.
allows us to continue marketing of that area
Yeah.
with our TRT
Okay.
tax. And
Very
so,
good.
super cool.
And just wanted to pitch to Commissioner Adams on that note with the USEP that you're bringing down. I think if we can talk to the nation in regards to the loopholes that are there for public safety, there has to be a way where perhaps the nation can actually cover those costs.
Jurisdiction
The
wise.
jurisdiction wise, if the nation can cover the insurance costs for county officers coming into Navajo reservation lands and making those agreements, I think there's potential there, and
Yeah.
maybe
that'd be
that
cool.
could be the solution. But I just wanted to pitch that to you, and maybe that's something we can work on together to convince USEP that it's going to be okay if the officers work together. So that's my hope. And then finally, this Friday, the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee will be traveling down to Montezuma Creek. We will be meeting behind the post office at the old Navajo Nation Economic Development building. Our meeting starts at 11, right? Or is it 10?
This Friday.
Friday, this coming Friday. And we've invited some guests. Clarence Rockwell is also aware of the meeting, and he and his office is going to assist in contacting some of the Navajo Nation criminal justice folks that would be interested in our meeting. So I'm hoping that we will have a full house with perhaps some Navajo Nation agencies that would benefit from our conversation on building bridges between one another to coordinate, definitely with the Children's Justice Center, but also with the Mutual Assist Agreement, and having other conversations about the need for a public resource officer and how we can solve that, and then getting them involved in the county Criminal Justice Coordinating Council so that they have input as well, and we can work together to meet the needs of our county. So that's on Friday, and I'll leave my comments at that, Commissioners. My stomach is talking now, and the voice is becoming stronger. So thank you very much, Commissioners, for your work. I also wanted to say thank you to the city, the rodeo folks in Monticello. I feel terrible that I wasn't able to be there to be part of your little ride in the rodeo. I know Mac was trying to get my attention with the sheep herding, but I wish I could be in two places at once, and I
know,
can't.
so true.
But it's so awesome that the rodeo committee was invited me to be part of the group, and I just want to say thank you. It wasn't intentional. It was just stretched into
Two places at once.
Two places at once. So,
Jim,
but don't give up on inviting me.
Yeah.
I'll come.
I just want to say about all the events we have in San Juan County, that's one event with every group in San Juan County comes together. They have the most amazing performers, natives and
Yeah. Yeah.
and the rest, Hispanic, whatever they are, but they are good quality. And you sat there in the wagon waiting for your turn to go in. This time was a wagon. Yeah, yeah, and so they had lots of participation, and so it is a feeling of unity that you feel there as we. And I decided I should have been a cowgirl. I think I just love. They have the most amazing horse. They have one horse,
beautiful,
beautiful black Spaniard horse.
Yes.
Wow.
From Spain. And he would be exercising back and forth with the owner, and I was just there sitting in the wagon by myself the first day, so I would just clap for him when he went. Well, the second day I was talking to Commissioner Adam, and the horse came and he stopped. And I noticed that they were stopped there, and I could see the rider just looking at me. So that horse made eye contact with me, like saying, "Wait, aren't you gonna?" And I started clapping, and that horse started doing all this stuff
Cool.
by himself, and I had never seen in the soul of an animal. I mean, it was just like he was communicating with me, We're
Cool.
talking to that guy and pay attention to me. And beautiful, he had three amazing, very intelligent horses, and all Spaniard horses.
All right. Well, commissioners, I just need a motion to adjourn unless we want to
Make a
spend the day
motion to
here.
adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Commissioner
second.
Adams, second by Commissioner Stubbs. All those in favor to adjourn? Aye.
Aye.
Adjournment at 12:28.
Only the faithful stay to the end. I say only the faithful stay to the end. Thank you for coming.